So I decided again to go down that little trip down nostalgia lane, much like yesterday, and talk about a little something. And of course, you might be familiar with that little something if you kinda sorta are familiar with me, or at least know me a lot. Now, growing up as a kid, I loved this show. This show, at least when I was born, is about as old as I am. And of course, this show airs on publicly funded television, and, okay, as you know what I'm talking about, it's Arthur. Arthur is, in my opinion, probably one of my few favorite shows that I ever grew up with as a kid. I have the first 10 seasons on my hard drive. I've got basically just about everything I could ever want from the show. I mean, the show's been going on for 20 years, and it's still going strong, even to this day. And even with the change in the formats and the variants and whatnot, and even as PBS Kids keeps getting new and new shows, Arthur still continues to be one of the longest running, animated shows right next to The Simpsons and South Park, as one of the best children's animated shows of all time. And besides that, they also had a really fantastic Christmas special. Yeah, if you haven't noticed it, there aren't a lot of Christmas specials that Arthur really had. Mostly because they didn't put them in 11-minute formatted episodes. Instead, they decided in, sometime around 2000 or whatever, to plop it into a 1-hour special. And that 1-hour special is simply titled Arthur's Perfect Christmas. I was a little kid when Arthur's Perfect Christmas came out. And just literally, just as a young kid who watched Arthur when he came, before he went to school and after school, when he would watch KCTS9 and before KBTC was available on his provider, it was fun watching Arthur in the mornings and after school. It was pretty much the funnest thing ever, but also it was kind of tradition, if possible, to watch, this holiday special every year on the PBS station, which, at times, it actually does air. Besides that, I think the last time it aired, at least when I saw it on the guide, it was, I think 2011 the last time I saw it. But I think it was tradition that they would put that on select PBS stations. But whenever they could, they put, that on the air as part of the Christmas tradition or whatever. But of course, Arthur being the, long-running show that it is, how is the story? Well, of course, it's the average, ordinary, everyday life of Arthur and his family. Arthur wants to have a perfect Christmas, but DW wants to get this toy known as Tina the Talking Tabby, or whatever it is. It's really hard to describe what that thing is, or whatever. But in the long end, Arthur goes around and, has to figure out just how the perfect Christmas will be. But, he just goes around just having an average Christmas. Just like any kid would. But, of course, there are a lot of other stories and focuses on a bunch of the other kids that, much like Arthur in the series that it is, it focuses sometimes on a lot of the other characters, much like the series. Sometimes it can focus on Arthur, other times it can focus on DW, Sue Ellen, Francine, Muffy, um, what's it? Francine, Muffy, Sue Ellen. It can focus on the Tibble twins. There's a lot of storylines they could have the episodes focus on. It's almost like the show is really diverse. And you don't need to have like one character in order to be involved in the situation in order for something to happen. That was kind of the mistake with MLP, but thank the gods they actually did something in season 2 to actually make it separate for that to happen, in order for each of the main characters to learn their own lessons. But I'm getting carried away. Muffy is trying to convince Francine to go to her Christmas party, trying to convince Francine to go to her Christmas party. But she's not having the best of luck because Francine celebrates Hanukkah. And of course, Muffy's not listening very well. And as soon as the holiday celebration's coming up and the party's going down, it's suddenly then on that, of course, Muffy suddenly starts listening to Francine. And they both learn about, or at least Muffy starts learning about the tradition of Hanukkah. I think that the more I think about this, I mean, other than, Rugrats, where, it was the first, I think, TV show where they talk about Hanukkah. I think this was the first educational children's show to actually talk about this. And talk about the other, other holiday traditions that people celebrate. There are people that celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and even people that don't celebrate any of the holidays. They sometimes make up their own. And speaking of that, Buster is told by the Brain and Arthur to talk to, their mother, to Buster's mom, to talk to him about maybe creating their own holiday, calling it Baxter Day. Which, there are sometimes few people that do that. I don't know, it's really hard to talk about this, because something about this is just holding me back. I don't know. It's just so perfect and really diversified. Because there's one where the one thing that I wish they could at least explain a bit more, though despite the fact that I really do kind of like where they do explain a lot of the holidays and sometimes a lot of the traditions that they talk about in the show and whatnot, is the explanation of how they each celebrate their own, holidays. Because I forget how it goes, because I don't want to fast forward. I don't want to try to rewind the whole holiday special and try to play the audio back, because WGBH, the owners of Arthur, which is the PBS affiliate of Boston, took down some of the Arthur stuff and is trying to make money off of it, so I don't want to actually play the clips off of here. But there was a really interesting one where George and their relatives were George's relatives from Sweden, if I recall this one, go marching just late in the morning on December 13th, dressed as just out in the freezing cold, following, I think, is like the Angel of Light or something. Like I said, I don't want to rewind this for Afraid of Being Taken Down by WGBH Boston, but that's an interesting little, like, tradition for Sweden for them to have. I mean, Christmas is a bit different here because it's more or less like, buy presents, buy, and then it's a story about Santa coming. It's a story about a jolly old man coming down and giving presents and whatnot, because at least by the time that this is coming out, Tuesday, Adam Conover of his show Adam Ruins Everything on 2TV is going to come out with a episode called Adam Ruins Christmas. And I just knew that was going to happen. So, it'll be interesting to see how that'll happen. But then again, people keep to their own traditions and whatever. Are there a few things that I don't like from this? One moment out of this. There is a moment where DW thinks that Santa is in their house. And that's literally Uncle Fred, who's kind of like Cousin Eddie from National Lampoon, from the vacation movies. And, of course, when, that, as DW's dragging, her father right next to the bathroom and tries to take a peek at Santa, or at least what she thinks is Santa in the bathroom, but turns out it's Arthur there, they dive into a bit of toilet humor, and I don't know if that would have been approved by Mark Brown or not. Probably not. That would have been, like, instantaneously rejected off the bat or something. Like, that just feels completely and utterly off to me or something. But they do get the fair accuracy of Christmas down to a whole. Like, everything down of, like, how Christmas is celebrated and how some kids even react to the holiday. I won't give it away here, but if you're interested, then I do recommend, seeing if your PBS affiliate is going to play, the episodes up. And if you're interested, try grabbing the DVD and supporting, great programming, because PBS is in desperate need of quality programming. Or at least, their program, they really do like their contributions. I know I will fund their programming, because they're going to get Sherlock on there in probably by next year or something. I will try to see if I can watch Sherlock. I don't know. But probably the next thing I'm going to do is going to watch the promised next Rugrats special. And that is, well, you'll find out in the next transition. So, see you there. So, we now move on to Nickelodeon as we talk about Rugrats, Babies in Toyland. This is the other Rugrats Christmas special there is, other than the Santa Experience. And is it better than the Santa Experience? I don't think so, not really, no. Obviously the title is a reference to Babes in Toyland. In the story, the family decides to take the infants and Angelica to a little park that Stu is hosting and manages to operate. and apparently Santa Claus is going to be at. But unfortunately, Stu's little snow machine that is operating the park somehow manages to malfunction, and of course, that machine crashes, and from there, that's where things start to get a little bit off the deep end with this episode. Of course, what winds up happening is that Angelica finds the Santa Claus that was supposed to be there, but winds up ticking the Santa off, that he winds up going off and whatnot. Then the next thing you know, Angelica's suddenly on this road to redemption story, where she's stuck with this plush reindeer and whatnot. And she's going all around this village while of course, the babies and Tommy and Chucky, Phil and Lil, and, what's Dill? Almost forgot him. And Dill, of course, are trying to find their way to Santa's workshop. But luckily, they find their way back to where Grandpa is, and they stay there until, of course, Angelica comes back with all Santa's bags. Ghosts. Anyways, Angelica comes back with Santa's bag that contains the presents from Santa's workshop, and of course gives out the presents to, the Rugrats. And of course, what happens with the parents, they get themselves stuck in a cabin, and they wind up getting cabin fever a bit and act like they're in the old times, and singing themselves carols to pass the time. It's bizarre, I'll tell you that much. I seriously do not know what to say about this special. It just can't beat the Santa Experience. It seriously can't. I think that'll just about do it for, this little Nickelodeon trip back. I was going to do Christmas Who from SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents Christmas Every Day, but I'm going to do it tomorrow. I think for now, I'm going to go onto my DVR, and I am going to do the unthinkable. I am going to watch something that I have not seen in a long while. Arthur Christmas. That's right. That actually felt relaxing. And now we conclude the night with our final film, Arthur Christmas. Well, technically it's not the final film, though I keep constantly saying it is. It's just for today. So, Arthur Christmas. At least if you have not know it yet, it is the fast-paced, funny comedy, and it's animated by the same people who did Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep. All these really funny comedies using stop motion, except this one's in CGI. In the story of Arthur Christmas, they wind up delivering presents, but a present winds up accidentally getting misplaced during the process. And Arthur decides to go rogue and decides to deliver the present with his great grandfather. However, all seems to be in a tailor fit when they suddenly start to get noticed by publicity, and suddenly the relatives start to wonder, what are they supposed to do when their relatives are out in the middle of nowhere, and they gotta figure out, well, how are we supposed to get them back here? Do we bring them back? Do we let them deliver the present? Do we do it? It's pretty much one of the funniest films I've ever seen in a long time. I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters, but I'm glad I got to see it not only on, at least rent it on home video, but also see it on Stars. Because, well, I recorded it on here a long time ago and had it on here. But last I saw, Freeform actually has the rights to it. So they're actually going to play it as part of their 25 Days of Christmas marathon. Yeah. I gotta get used to saying Freeform. They're not ABC Family. So Freeform, and not ABC Family, has this as part of their 25 Days of Christmas marathon. And if you have it, I recommend it, because it's one of the funniest films. And it's really fast-paced, and a lot of the jokes go by so quickly, it takes like a lot of like rewinding to catch a lot of the jokes, both on screen and in the background, and to catch a lot of the Easter eggs that the animators put in. Like, I noticed there's a little plush of Shaun the Sheep and the poster of Open Season, and then there's like, you know, little references to Sony here and there, like the Sony TVs, and then there's like some reference to like Snowy, like some sort of like weird version of Sony batteries or whatever called Snowy. It's a funny little film, and I highly recommend it if you want to watch it every Christmas. It's on Freeform, but it's also available on Blu-ray. So, that about does it for today. And, wow, 7:48. It's getting a bit late, so better get to editing these and to, you know, plan ahead for who knows what of tomorrow. But, at least we're getting there on the home stretch. But at least the home stretch on Friday, there is a certain little holiday that some select people may be familiar with. And you'll find out what that is in a moment. At least when the time is right. So, I'll see you guys when it comes time to that certain time. So, see ya.